Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for the preview of the Olympic Games road race, both men and women's, brought to you by Join Cycling, the #1 training platform for your cycling needs. The Olympic Games road race is one of the hardest to predict, mainly because the team allotments are very small compared to a normal, even World Championships, or indeed a traditional classic. So whilst it is 270 kilometers long, we have only, I think, 4 or 5 teams having 4 riders, and the majority having about 2 or 1 rider. So really, really unpredictable race. Obviously, it was won by Carapaz in Tokyo when he and McNulty went clear last time. Then before that, it was Golden Greg Van Avermaet after there was a crash of Nibali on the descent. And before that was...
Samuel Sanchez.
No, Run and Vinokurov.
Oh, yeah, true. And then before that, it was Samuel Sanchez in 2008, right?
Yeah. So, and then before that, in 2004 in Athens, don't know. So, it's an unpredictable race. Carapaz was not the favorite in Tokyo. Indeed, Pat Pogacar was, and he came third behind Van Aert in the sprint. But this route is not like that at all. 275 kilometers long from Paris, the Trocadero, back to the Trocadero. Run me through the western forest section of this parcours, Benji, which I think is going to be important to watch earlier than, say, Tokyo, where it was all concentrated on Mikuni.
I feel like you and I look at parcours differently. You look at the parcours and you see the city in front of you. I look at the parcours and I see a cycling profile. I've got no clue where the forest is that you're pointing at. I just know what the first 200 kilometers look like. That's what I see. So I look at the first 200 kilometers of this race, 273 in total. So it's a very long race. And I see a lot of potential for potentially early action. And I'd say I'd split this race in 3 parts if I look at the full race, and that first 200 kilometers into 2 parts. You've got the first 130 kilometers, 150 kilometers with hills every now and then, hills every 10, 20 kilometers, but the segments in between the hills, there's still ups and downs in it. But these hills we're not talking about 1 kilometer at like 11%, we're talking about 600 meters at 5%, 1 kilometer at 5%. So there's some false flat hills in there. It's nothing too serious, but it can be used to have groups be ahead before the actual eventual finale arrives. So I won't go through every single hill during the first 150 kilometers, but let's just say there's about roughly 10, 12, 13 hills in the first 200 kilometers. And it's that last portion of the first 200 kilometers that I want to talk about. So I said already, split in 3 parts. First 150 kilometers, hills every now and then. Then the next 50 kilometers, from 150 kilometers into the race to 200 kilometers into the race. There we've got 6 climbs in very short notice. So that's the zone in which, if this was a classic or a monument, you'd expect the first dangerous group to go ahead. That's how I would read that in regular races. We'll talk about how Olympics racing will perhaps change that. And after that, we venture into the final, which, like, the last 70 kilometers exists out of 18 kilometers of going from the first 200 kilometers to the city circuit in Paris. So there's an 18-kilometer flat segment before the last 50 kilometers. And that last 50 kilometers is 2.5 times the Paris city loop. I'm saying 2.5 because it exists out of 3 hills. We do 3 times Montmartre, which is 1.1 kilometer at 5.6%. This is one of the more climby climbs. Then the next one is 1.7 kilometers at 3.5%. Côte de Serrurier. This one we do only 2 times. And there's a bit of a flat section in the middle of this climb. So that's an intriguing one when it comes to the second climb of that last circuit. And then the third climb of that last circuit is the Côte de Belleville, 1.5 kilometers at 3.4%. So, sorry, but like the first half of this last climb, the Belleville, which I'm saying last climb, I gotta direct you through the order here. So in the last 50 kilometers, we do first Montmartre, then Serrurier, and then we do Belleville, then we do Montmartre again, Serrurier, Belleville, and we finish with Montmartre. So 2.5 times that circuit. Montmartre seems like the decisive climb on paper, no? Of that last circuit?
Yeah, because it has about a 600-meter section at 7%. It also has pave or cobbles on it. I'm not sure exactly the road quality for Montmartre, but it is, yeah,
Little cobbles.
it's the last climb to the finish. And yeah, I don't think it's full-blown Paris-Roubaix cobbles or even Koppenberg cobbles, but it's not a road surface either. It's not like pure tarmac either. And yeah, that's 10 Ks from the finish. So if you're looking at this, as Benji said, like a classic, then with, World Championships last year, there was 200 riders in that race. Belgium had
Yeah.
9 riders. Denmark had 8 riders. Like even Austria had 5 riders. Canada had 6 riders. These teams here, Canada, they have 2 riders here. Or, for example, Estonia or have 1 rider, or Ireland have 2 riders compared to last year they had 6. It makes a really, really big difference, because if you're looking at this like a normal classic or even like a World Championships, you would say there are so many dedicated bodies to be domestiques that they can control the first, say, maybe 160 Ks before they get into the proper hill zone. The first hill zone around the Saint-Rémy-les-Chevreuse, and indeed maybe even the first 200 Ks before the Montmartre circuit. But with this, because now when you have someone like Van der Poel, who is the favorite, which makes sense because I think everyone is not being tricked anymore by his Tour de France preparation. The Tour last year, he wasn't so good, and then he just won the World Championships. Anyway, he's the favorite, $2.87. If you go to the last Montmartre or even the second last Montmartre with Van der Poel, maybe he goes on the first one, Van Aert follows. And then the second last one on the cobbles, see you later. This guy won the World Championships by a minute and a half last year, crashing. Yeah. So that means, Benji, how do you then see maybe the middle hill zone? Or even indeed, is any of these teams even going to try and go on the breakaway?
Well, you pointed at the main factor there. The differentiation of this Olympics race compared to regular monuments and big races throughout the season, big one-day races, is a few things. First of all, the fact that there's very limited teams. Countries arrive here with 1 to 4 riders in their squad, which means you've got limited domestiques to control the race before you get to the final, which might adapt their strategy. Additionally, you've got lack of earpieces. So it's not like they can talk to their team car during the race, which will also impact the way these teams ride tactically. They might not notice that there's a teammate up the road, etc., and start chasing behind it. That's all possible in races when it comes to lack of earpieces. But let's focus on the limited rider aspect first. And when I look at this parkour, it's a very long race. That's the first thing you need to hammer in. 270 kilometers is long. And it's 200 kilometers before we even start getting towards that final circuit. How can you control the first 200 kilometers if you're Van der Poel's team with Van Baarle and Dan Hole? Good luck.
You can't. Like,
yeah.
And the earpieces is huge, Benji. Like, it's not something we normally think about or have to think about, but let's just imagine. Let's cast our minds back to the World Championships. I know we all tried to forget it. It wasn't great. The World Championships in Australia in 2022. And you have, I don't know when it was, Benji, maybe 70 Ks to go, 80 Ks to go. Yeah. I can't recall exactly.
Roughly.
Group of 20 riders, strong riders goes, and there's the quote-unquote right teams represented. Without earpieces, you have no idea who is in that group. And remember what the default mindset of teams and riders is which is, did I see my teammate going in there? Answer yes. Okay, we're good. We're good. And that's actually what happened in the World Championships, even with earpieces, where France jumped in with new French citizen Pavel Sivakov, I think, and Benoit Cosnefroy, or new French team rider. I think he always was a citizen. And they were like, we're good, but we're with Remco Evenepoel. Actually, you're not good at all. And then they worked for a lap, and then Remco said, thanks very much for coming. I'll see you later at the finish line. And now imagine that without even radios. So now you have a hill circuit, left, right, in the west of the city. and you suddenly a group of 20 goes, you see your jerseys in there, sweet. Like, what happens when it's also the representation fallacy, Benji? Now, what are the Netherlands going to do? If you control with 2 guys for 200Ks, it just won't work. It just doesn't work, right? So your next best option is Van Baarle has to go in the group. And then your Van der Poel, you sit in the group behind, and then it starts to get a gap. And it has fucking Hirschi in it, or Narvaez in it, Stuyven's in it. Now what?
That's a good question. Because that's also why, if I look at the parkour, that it would not shock me if we end up having a race where, first of all, early breakaway, this race could be chaos from start to finish. If any team finds intrigue in putting a quote-unquote dangerous rider already in a move early on, then we'll have a circulation of dangerous riders trying to get in moves, and eventually that dangerous group will form, and that will not wait for the final circuit. So it's very much not unlikely at all. It's very likely that there's a group that starts to exist at a certain point in the race with the likes of Stuyven, with the likes of Skjelmose, Mauro Schmidt, and then it is indeed on the Netherlands to respond to that in a way. And is Van Baarle in current form, putting Van Baarle in current form in that group, dangerous? Like, peak Van Baarle, you'd say, yes, that's a good move. But I haven't seen peak Van Baarle this year.
Even if he is in his Paris-Roubaix shape, it's still not the ideal situation, which is launching Van der Poel, or Van der Poel doing it himself from the peloton on the Montmartre climbs, and then nobody can go with him. You got a decent chance, but against, I mean, let me run through the top 10 favorites quickly, just so, and also run through some of the teams, because there's only about 90 riders. But yeah, Van der Poel, as I said, $2.80. I think that's, you'd have to be in a big one-day race that he's targeting. You'd have to be a brave man to go against Van der Poel, but I actually think that's surprisingly short, given what we've just discussed. I think everyone's almost too short. Van Aert 6, Evenepoel 6, which shows Belgium have a really, really good chance. Pedersen 7, the leader of Denmark. Alaphilippe, after winning in Croatia, is 17. Narvaez is 21. I saw Johnny training.
Czechia, by the way.
Where was Czech Tour, no?
Czech Tour is not in Croatia, right?
Sorry, Czech Tour. I actually watched every stage. No, Tom Pidcock, after winning mountain bike gold and getting booed, 23. Christophe Laporte, 26. Stuyven, 26. So Belgium have 3 in the top 9 of the market. Bini, 29. Actually, I was a bit surprised. He's longer than someone like Alaphilippe, frankly. I don't think this is that hard a circuit. Matthews, 34. I don't know where Caden Groves is. Hirschi, 34. Jorgensen, 41. Skjelmose, 41. Bettiol, 51. Tarling, 51. Where is McNulty? 81. Now that is a bit surprised. So I almost, Benji, like, I know they have to make a market, but I see McNulty at 81 almost just as likely to win as Alaphilippe at 17 or Van Aert to win at 6.
Where's Skjelmose when it comes to odds? That's a curious
40s,
one for
50s.
Me. Like, if we take a look at previous Olympics, we can look at that, but it's not really that useful because those were ridden with bigger teams. It's for this Olympics that they brought the quota of amount of riders per team down to equalize it to the women's amount. So that was the reason that we now start with 1 to 4 riders per team. And that brings me to that Belgium team. I think we need to talk about Belgium quite a bit here for a second, because if we take a look at that squad, they're starting with 4 riders, one of the limited teams, I think 4 teams that are starting with 5 teams. One of 5 teams that are starting with 4 riders. Remco Evenepoel, Wout van Aert, Stuyven, and Benoot. If we take a look at that team, at least 3 of the 4, maybe 4 of the 4, are riders that if you put them in a group ahead, they are dangerous for the victory. Or could potentially win the race from a dangerous group ahead. Is how I see that. And if I go through my theory for this race, then I'm saying that the winner is likely going to come out of a dangerous group that will start to exist at some point in the race. What team is most likely to be in every group with a rider that can win? Belgium, because they have 4 riders that can potentially win from a dangerous group. No?
Belgium or France, I would say, actually. Because Vauquelin is very good. Madouas is not looking as good, but is very good. Alaphilippe is in good shape, and the door
Yeah.
obviously in the home. And also, there is a real home Olympics boost. We saw it with Ferrand Prévot. So I think also France, actually, with 4 riders and 4 very strong Hill Classics riders, especially with it not being too hard for the door, are also a team I would expect to be in
Yeah.
every move. Slovenia do have 4 riders, but they're with Moritz shaping the tour. I'm not sure if he was sick, but frankly, they look like they're a non-factor with no
Yeah.
Pogačar and no Roglic. And then it's kind of a lottery, as you said, Benji, in that Australia, like they might be in there with one, Simon Clark or Ben O'Connor. Matthews
Yeah.
maybe in the group behind with the sprinty boys. Are they going to win against Jasper Stuyven or Remco Evenepoel? You know, it's. I think. Let's before I go back to dive into the mind of Mathieu Van der Poel, which is probably like thinking about Dubai golf half the time. Do a reference to our show partner, Join Cycling. A lot of these riders have been preparing for the Olympic Games, some very, very seriously with a big focus all year, like Tarling and Ganna for the TT, like Van der Poel indeed, who basically said the Tour de France was a preparation for the Olympic Games, which we actually saw him getting better throughout the Tour de France. Structured training is what makes World Tour level cyclists so good and keeps them improving year on year. And Join Cycling offers structured training plans designed by World Tour level cycling coaches, which provides clear, goal-oriented workouts. A lack of a structured training approach that can lead you to having inefficient workouts, suboptimal performance, and sometimes a plateau, even with you increasing your hours and training hard. Now, don't get me wrong, there's always time in the week for a fun ride with your friends. You can insert that or add that into the Join Cycling app as a planned ride, and your plan adapts around that. That's the beauty of Join Cycling. If you go on a holiday, something comes up with your family, with your work, it will adjust automatically before you even have time just about to think about what you're doing. It's already adjusted, and that brings with it sustainability, because you're not constantly having to, I don't know, second guess your plan or change it manually yourself or think about what you're doing. Join Cycling adapts to you, maximizing training benefits, giving you clear guidance on what to do and when to do it. So if you want to check it out, down below, you can get 30 days free trial from Join Cycling. And after that, which many of you have already done and used, which is so cool to see, you can get 6 months discounted on Join Cycling. And so you can join the group of LRCP users that have been using Join Cycling and getting fantastic results. Going to the mind of Mathieu Van der Poel, Benji, he has to pick his battles here. If Remco Evenepoel goes in a group, if he sees him moving, he has to mark him himself. Mads Pedersen, himself. And then I don't know where the list eventually stops. Maybe Laporte, but like he can't. He has to do some defensive things himself, and not just be like, Dylan will go in the group, and then it's all fine. He's not stupid. So where does that line end? Is Jasper Stuyven that man where he's not big enough of a threat that Van der Poel has to spend a bullet himself, but he is good enough that he can just win from the lead group? Like, where's that line?
I think Stuyven is definitely good enough to win his Olympics, first and foremost after seeing his Tour de France form. I don't know where that line ends, but I think it definitely starts with Remco, with Wout, with Pedersen, with going to list. Those are the main ones. Maybe he goes with Laporte as well, for example. Like he just can't afford to respond to everything. Otherwise, he's going to overextend himself and burn himself throughout the race itself. And by the time he needs to attack, he's not going to have the energy to do it anymore. So, like, you can't respond to everything. And that's the benefit of teams that have multiple leaders over a team that has one leader. And that's why the form of Van Baarle will be very important for the team of the Netherlands. Because if Van Baarle is really good, then he might be in that group with Jasper Stuyven. And if he's really good, then he's competitive in that group. And that changes things up, for example. And that's one thing. But if you're the opposite team, if you're the likes of Belgium, if you're the like of France, you also know that Van der Poel needs to react to X amount of riders and X amount of moves during the race. So if you have the numerical advantage, you should use it. You shouldn't try to lock up the race as long as possible as well. You should try and use your numerical advantage, your multi-leader strategy. Don't trust on one person. And I expect both of these teams to use their riders to not just go for a Wout van Aert sprint or a Remco Evenepoel launching at this point in the race and we're going to lock up the race before that, or where we're going all out for Laporte. I don't believe in that. They need to go for multiple riders and need to be in the moves and therefore put pressure on the Netherlands in the first place. And not just the Netherlands, a team that might also control, you said it already, like Denmark's an interesting one. Skjelmose, I think, is definitely a podium candidate if he's in a group with the likes of Jasper Stuyven, Dylan van Baarle, stuff like that up the road. So that's a rider that can get that podium here. The other riders in that team, Mikkel Bjerg and Merku, sorry, but those are full-on domestiques. So
yeah,
I wonder how Denmark is going to play that. Will they end up helping control it for Pedersen a little bit and keep Skjelmose as you go into moves that go ahead kind of vibe? Because that's also a factor in the race.
I think Denmark are one of the teams that might open it up after 155 kilometers when they get into the 160 Ks. Remember in the World Championships last year, it was Denmark with Merku doing a lead out who opened up the race with 140 Ks to go, which is actually even earlier than where I suggested in this Olympic Games road race. So I think Denmark are going to want an open race. They know Skjelmose actually, with his sprint, if he's against other like climbing boys, if he's against McNulty, if he's against Jorgensen, if he's against, I don't know, Ben Healy or Danny Martinez, even a Bettiol, like Skjelmose can sprint. Against Benoit, he'll beat him in a sprint. So I think they know they got to get ahead, and I think they also know that Merku and Bjerg are not... Bjerg maybe, I mean, top 5 in Tour of Flanders, let's remember that. But Merku, he's not going to survive that long. They may as well just use him to open up the race and make it difficult for Van der Poel. So I really see it opening fully with the group going in that hill zone, 160 Ks into the race to 190 Ks. Yeah. So the 30 Ks from the first Côte de Senlis to the Côte de Bièvre, that 30 Ks, it should really, really be attacks constantly. If I'm Van der Poel Benji, honestly, I use Dan Holler to close the race as much as possible before then, but to 150 Ks and hope we maybe get some help and it's a non-threatening break.
Yeah.
And then I just attack myself immediately with 100 Ks to go. So
offense is the best defense, they often say, but it's also launchpad for other riders. Like it's also the kind of climb like Côte de Bièvre, for example, with about 75, 78 kilometers to go. That's also the kind of climb where I see a Remco Evenepoel going for a launch, etc. So a group going ahead like in Wollongong, for example, and then there's going to be countries in there that you've mentioned it before, like a representation fallacy of like, oh, we're in there, so that's good. But they're in there against Remco Evenepoel again, like in Wollongong. So those kind of scenarios I see realistic in that zone. I'm also very intrigued to see what happens in the first 150 kilometers, because on one end,
who's going
because
in the
there's such limited riders. Like if you're a country like sorry, but there's lots of countries here that are the kind of countries like Algeria, Uzbekistan, etc. If it comes to the 150 kilometer point, they're gone. So they need to go in the breakaway early and potentially make a race for themselves that way. That's one factor. But is that also not like an opportunity for someone like an Alex Kirch or a Vacek for Czech Republic? Vacek's actually a bit underrated in my opinion. That guy could literally top 10 this race in my opinion.
Vacek is really, really good. I'll go even another step further, Benji. I mean, Ryan Gibbons, of course, he should be looking for that early break. Why shouldn't Josh Tarling get in that move?
Yeah.
Like, why not?
I agree.
So the other alternative is you save him to like close down the race to help Pidcock, right? Later, or Stevie Williams. I mean, they've got the winner of Amstel Gold Race and the winner of Flèche Wallonne. So let's not forget that GB have a really, really good team here for a hill classic after a long race. But Fred Wright's not looked in great shape all year, but he should be able to help somewhat. But say Thailand goes in an early break with that little Trek young guy, Söderqvist, the Swedish guy, and then who you said already, or Fedorov or Kirsch, Arashiro, Varcek. All of a sudden, it's like, who is controlling that? Like, who is controlling it? Really?
I generally don't know. Because, like, if you're Belgium, wouldn't you be happy with, like...
No way you're going to use Benoit to control this early break. Why would you?
Why not be in there with Benoit in the first place, then?
Oh, that's a bit... No, then he won't be allowed in.
Yeah, but who's going to control him? Then another team will have to control him. And will they control from the peloton, or will they try and jump with Benoit? It becomes an instant question, no?
Yeah. I think if you're a tier below that, if you're Tarling, if you're Ryan Mullen, if you're Kirsch, he might be... He did podium through a Flanders. I feel like that's a tough one. He could be a
mid-zone guy.
Mezgec, Novak, Ayuso. I don't know how the fuck Viviani's on the Italian team. That must be a track thing. I thought that was a typo, but Jesus, Lorenzo Rota or whoever must have been a better option there. Yeah, I think the tier, even Attila Valter, like maybe he waits, because you can either do that. If you're a Ryan Mullen type guy, you have to do that, because when the jumping really starts, you're not following in the hills. So you may as well take a chance. If you're Fedorov, you're not following.
Yeah.
And then in the mid phase of the race for the tier maybe of punchers a little bit above that, it's a lottery. If you're Attila Valter, if you're Narvaez, if you're Bini, if you're Derek G, if you're Schachman, Aaron Baru, Lazcano, or especially the teams with one guy, you just have to be lucky. You're like, you see a group of 20 of 8 guys going, you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to jump. But then if it doesn't go, and then another move jumps, you have to then hope it doesn't go. Like, it's really, really a lottery for a lot of these isolated guys, like Narvaez in particular, or Volta. So yeah, it's Skuins. Skuins loves a long, hard race for Latvia. So do you think all of these guys, Benji? Because it's like, even if there were more numbers, that would mean that New Zealand, Eritrea, Belgium, France maybe for Laporte, or Estonia for Mikkels. There's a lot of guys with a good sprint here. If there were more team numbers, there would be more teams that would be like, all right, we'll close the race a little bit to the last 60, 70 Ks because, you know, these guys, or Australia for Bling. But Bini has no teammates. So how is he going to be like, get to a sprint?
Good question. He needs other teams to do it. And he needs to be lucky in the group that he's in. I think it's very difficult for Bini to win this race. I don't see that scenario.
It's going to be really, really tough because he's so good at... It's like even with Laporte, like they're so fast that why would you ride with Bini to the finish?
And people know it now. Like, after winning Gent-Wevelgem, Laporte could still think, okay, maybe I can beat him up 1v1, even though we've seen that not happen. But after the Tour de France, we know he's fucking fast on the flat as well. So,
yeah, although it does you have to bear in mind there's Olympic medals up for grabs. So are you really going to suppress and give up a guaranteed Olympic medal for your country to then get nothing? So say if you're Ben Healy, right? Yeah. You're the only Irish rider left in the final.
You're right.
You have to ride with Bini. Because what? You play the guys coming back card and what? You get nothing. Your country gets nothing.
If you're Van Aert and Evenepoel is behind,
that's
intriguing. Right? I don't know. That's intriguing because I'm not sure Van Aert will not ride with Bini if Evenepoel is in the group behind. It should be the other way around.
It depends how close it is to finish.
If Van Aert is behind.
Yeah. I mean, if I was Van Aert, I would ride because if Evenepoel's coming back with the group, it's not like he's going to win the sprint either. So
unless he's solo, then you let him come back and then you play out 1v2.
But they don't have radios. How does he know that Evenepoel's solo?
Yes.
So it's really like, this is really a lottery. This is... I think what the UCI are hoping this sort of chaos that might happen is what they want from trialing the no radios at Burgos and Polonia. But I also think this is an interesting test case for smaller teams, whether it makes the race open and more unpredictable. I think by definition it does. By definition, it must make it more open and unpredictable because this is not that hard a course. It really isn't that hard a course.
Yeah.
It's not that steep, the climbs. There's only like 2,500 meters elevation gain. But the 90 riders makes it so much more open.
And so much harder as well, in my opinion, because every rider might have to react to things more than they usually have to. And the race might open up earlier as a consequence of being limited riders. So it's just going to be all out racing. So I don't think we can look at the route and say, oh, this looks like an easier parcours, because the way it's going to be ridden will be more like a city circuit. Like, what was that? Was there European champs in Glasgow? That Trentin one?
The one Trentin won ahead of Lampard maybe, or no, that was Viviani.
Because that route on paper wasn't insane either.
Okay, time for our picks. We'll do the pick to win and also some dark horses.
Right. Let's start with bronze, eh? Bronze, silver, gold. Come on.
Bronze, silver, gold. Okay.
I don't know. I should have prepared this. What do you think?
Bronze, McNulty. Silver, Pidcock.
Yeah.
Fourth, Hirschi. No, that doesn't make sense.
Fourth, Hirschi.
No. Bronze, Hirschi. McNulty loses the sprint. McNulty's fourth. Bronze, Hirschi. Second, Pidcock winning the sprint. And then solo ahead is Oyer Lascano.
Lascano wins gold.
Yeah, sure. I'm in the Basque country right now, so why not? I have to say it.
You sound very confident in that one.
You could convince me that maybe 20 different riders could win this race, really.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to go for... God, Pic Alaphilippe would clean this parkour. It would be amazing to see on this route.
Alaphilippe would just ride away, yeah.
Oh, that'd be epic, but that's not what we're going to have here. Bronze, Derek G. Silver. Ooh. This is so difficult. Silver. I'm going with... Who would be in a group with the likes of Stuyven van Baarle up the road earlier on? Yeah, but he ain't.
Ben Healy.
Derek G would beat him in a sprint.
Terry Jorgensen.
Jorgensen I find realistic, actually. No, I'm going to go Skjelmose silver, Stuyven gold.
Okay. Dark horses, Kevin Vauquelin 300 to 1. I don't know why he won from a break on a hill circuit in the Tour de France. Okay, I don't know what shape he's in, but the French team is very strong. Yeah. So I see his chance to win much bigger than Niels Pollitt, for example, or even Teish Benoit. No, Binny can sprint.
No, but I see it very unlikely that it ends with a sprint with Binny in the group.
Yeah, Binny's in a group of 8. Say Binny does everything right. He picks the right move with 65 Ks to go. He's in there, right? With 7 or 8 guys, with the big teams, France, with Belgium, with whoever, with Denmark.
Yeah, he's
still fucked.
He needs Skjelmose to start riding for Pedersen to keep the group closed, and Remco to start riding for Wout van Aert for a sprint as well.
Yeah.
Then he has a chance.
They're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe they do it, though, Benji, if Van der Poel's behind. So say, there are race dynamics where it could happen, where Van der Poel's behind, and then everyone rolls through to keep the big gun behind. But not all the way to the finish.
In what way is Van der Poel behind, but all the other people made it?
Okay, have a mech or something, I don't know.
Yeah. Unlikely in my head.
Vauquelin, I think, is decent. And then also Pithy. I think Pithy's a little bit underrated here. Like, I don't know what shape he's in, but frankly, I think having a sprint is very, very important. That's my hot take for cycling analysis, is that being able to sprint is kind of important.
Really?
Yeah, it is. And then therefore that Bettiol, nice rider or whatever, he's very nice, probably stronger overall, in terms of overall power profile than Pithy, but at the end of the day, if there's a group of three and Pithy's in it, there's a good chance he's the quickest. Or there's a good chance that he has a chance to win the sprint. So,
yes,
yeah.
but I think there's a likely opportunity that it's like a group of 5 or something, and then one of the riders attacks, and then there's group dynamics going on. Because I also don't see Stuyven beating Skelmose in a sprint 1v1.
Oh, you're underrating Stuyven's sprint a little bit.
Stuyven in 1v1 sprints or in a small group has a high loss rate.
Yeah.
In large group sprints, he's good.
Skelmose
but in small group sprints...
Skelmose is a GC rider, though, and Stuyven is a lead-out man.
Yeah, but I've seen no proof, my friend.
Yeah. All right. As I said, I don't know where Caden Groves is. He also would have been pretty good. I don't know if he's injured or something, but O'Connor replaces Plapp because Plapp had a bad crash in the TT. So very, very open race. As we said, it's going to be one to watch the whole way through, just about. Even I'll be fascinated to see who tries to go on the early breakaway. Maybe no one does anything, Benji, and they just let Mathieu van der Poel attack on the second last Montmartre and ride away for gold, but I don't really see it happening. So any last thoughts on the men's before we move to the women's?
I'm looking forward to it. It's just a very odd race, very unpredictable, as you might have noticed by the fact that we're going for straight outsiders, because it's very hard to see control in this race happen, and that's why I want to see it played out. And I just hope it's chaos. Chaos from start to finish. But chaos that we can follow, if that makes sense. Because, guys, come on, I need to make notes for the podcast, so please do it in an orderly fashion in the race. But it should be a good race, I think.
Yeah, it is. Moving on to the women's race, it is very strange how they've decided to do it. I think ultimately it is more interesting for the men's race, the way it will be so open, just to have something different. But as we move to the women's race, 95 riders as well. But the difference is it's 120k shorter. It's 3 hours shorter. It's or 2.5 hours shorter with the same number of riders. So that really makes a big difference. 158 Ks. It's 100 Ks before the Montmartre Hill Zone instead of 200 Ks. And they don't do as many of those hills, or they do some of them in the 30k zone from Saint-Rémy-les-Chevreuse. But it is the final is the same 3 reps of Montmartre, but yeah, it's way shorter the preceding hill zone, Benji.
Exactly, and it's really split in 2 parts here, the race. As I told that the men's parkour is more in 3 parts. You got the first 150 kilometers, that was hills every now and then 50 kilometers of major hills in like a short period of time, and then the Montmartre Paris circuit. Here you've only got the first 100 kilometers, which is hills every now and then the Paris circuit. It's we kind of go back and forth, as in we've got some hills in the first 100 kilometers that are from the earlier segment of the men's race, and some that are from the hill zone of the men's race. But in total, there's like 6 hills, I would say, that I would classify as actual like hills where we might see some activities in the peloton, a rider going to the front, making it a little bit harder, etc., where you might be able to reduce the gap to riders up front. But in women's cycling, objectively, there are less breakaways. So how do we see that play out in a race where last year Anna Kiesenhofer won from the breakaway? Because now people are going to be smelling their opportunity.
Exactly. Like, we should remember, the absolute masterclass from Kiesenhofer and disaster class from the women's, the Dutch women's team, where Van Vleuten thought she won. I'm professing my ignorance here, Benji, but Britain has 5 riders on the confirmed start list. How's that possible?
Britain only have what?
Great Britain have 5 riders. And one of them's Anna Morris, who's a track rider. Anyway, I see this as less open and less possible riders that can win this race. Mainly because, first of all, like Benji said, there is the proportion of teams with that are strong with multiple riders is higher. So, or like I said, GB have nearly 4 or 5, whatever you want to say. Netherlands, Benji, they have not even the favorite. They have the second, third, fourth favorite for this race. Lorena Wiebes, Marianne Vos, and Demi Vollering. But they have 4 very, very strong riders, all of whom, 3 of whom can win. Whereas Belgium have 1 rider that can win, and then Kopecky supported by Van Pachtenberg, Van der Velde, and Justine Gekira. They're tough names for me. I think there's going to be no break allowed.
I think so too. I'm thinking similarly. Either there's no break allowed, or we see quite a few people going for it, but then the major teams might be thinking, okay, last year, we don't want that to happen again. Let's control it a bit and make sure there's no proper break. Maybe you see 1 or 2 riders going off the front. Like, I don't expect this to be I don't expect the same scenario as last year.
Well, why did Kiesenhofer winning happen?
So, first of all, she got in the breakaway. That's step 1. Step 2, in the group behind, there was chasing happening, but rather late. There was in-house, I would say, bickering internally at Netherlands of who should do the work in the first place, because there were too many leaders, too many cooks in the kitchen, combined with the fact that they, or at least one of them, certainly, didn't realize Kiesenhofer was still ahead due to radios not being present. Was there a factor I'm missing?
That's correct. It's Netherlands basically brought Van der Breggen, Van Vleuten, Vollering, Vos. All of them wanted to win. They refused to chase. Every other team said, why would we chase the early breakaway when you have, I think they had 4 of the top 5 favorites in the betting before that race. And other teams like, well, we're not going to chase that. And it got out of control, big gap. And then in the end, Netherlands started attacking and Schaspertaling. It was a disaster. That is why I think this year they bring Ellen van Dijk. If a break goes, Ellen van Dijk is going to get put on the front. She is so strong. Okay, not her best TT, I grant you, but there is still quite a big level difference, if we're being honest, in the women's cycling from the 90th best rider to the, let's say Van Dijk's the 30th best rider or 25th strongest rider. And so Ellen van Dijk is more than strong enough herself to control a break of 5 or 6 riders at 2 minutes for like 2 hours. She can do it, no problem. In the men's, maybe that isn't possible, but she can. Do I see it realistic, Benji, that are the other teams, okay, I should probably, the 2 strongest teams, as I said, Belgium, Netherlands, Wiebes, Van Dijk, Vollering, Vos, and then Belgium with Kopecky as leader. Italy also strong with Balsamo, who can win the sprint, Persico, Cecchini, Longo Borghini. Longo Borghini may be the best all-round rider this year, and if Vollering is the best GC rider.
Yep.
Which teams are going to send a strong rider in the early break as opposed to just a Zabelinskaya, Bujak type rider?
I don't see that.
You
in
don't?
This race. No?
So Sierra's
early break.
I just wait.
I think so. Like,
or Kimberly Pina.
I think maybe in the middle zone of the race we see that opportunity coming, but like especially the main big teams definitely won't do it because they're going to be betting on their riders. Like if you're Belgium, you're going to be betting on Kopecky being able to win this race, and therefore you have Gekere, Van der Velde, Van Pachtenbeke as the domestiques in that area. When it comes to UK, you can have confidence in Georgie and Henderson as well to maybe make the split and be there for a medal as well. It's not just about goalie; it's also about some riders might just be going for a medal. So that's there. When it comes to Italy, with Longo Borghini waiting for the final sounds pretty logical to me. Netherlands as well. So yeah, maybe we see people going for a breakaway from those smaller countries in terms of rider selection, but I don't see that being impossible to control either, as long as they get to it this time around, as long as Netherlands gets their shit together unlike 4 years ago.
And I think it's more likely that they will, but you say, Benji, if you're like Kim Kazao, she top 5 in Liège? She's just not going to be allowed in, or even if she does, it might be a waste of energy. Or Majerus, or if you're Kim LaCourt, if you can win a medal, any medal for Mauritius, and she's good enough to do it. Like Kim LaCourt is like in really, really good shape, as a really good one-day rider. You just have to be patient and just go for a medal, like even if it's a bit conservative. I mean, you could also look at like Olivia Baril on Canada. Like she's too good to almost do that, especially if it is true that the other teams will get their act together. But I guess then it's like, well, if you don't put them under pressure, then you're just making it easy for them, and then you're going to be blown away by Kopecky and Wiebes when they get to the last hill zone. So where do you see this? If we look at the second tier, so Kopecky, Wiebes are the big favorites, or Kopecky and the Netherlands are the big favorites, rather. I think actually Balsamo and Italy are a little bit underrated. I don't know what shape Balsamo is in exactly.
Are you surprised? Are you surprised Paternoster is not here instead of Cecchini?
No, because she's a sprinter and Cecchini will get her hands dirty, I think.
As domestique work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Persico's also pretty solid to have both help and be in groups, but I think ELB is a little bit underrated here. Like Longa Borghini in the Tour of Flanders, I know it's a harder race, but she did straight up ruin everybody on Paardenburg, right? And just rode away.
100% medals, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I don't know why, maybe it's the team dynamics, but I don't know why Demi Vollering is shorter than ELB for this one-day race. Yeah. It makes no sense to me.
I agree with you.
But anyway, to go back to the second tier of riders, let's say Emma Norsgaard, Benji, who won us to a stage. Niedermeyer, Georgie, Alison Jackson and Baril, Kim LaCourt, Kadzau, Ingvild Gasquien on Norway, who came third in Amstel, Marta Lach. What's Shabby on Switzerland? Dygert or Faulkner rather, what's their game plan? When do they really need to start getting ahead of Netherlands, Italy, and Kopecky?
I see that like right in the middle of the race. If you look at the last like 80, 90 kilometers, you've got Saint-Méry-les-Cheveux, followed by Châteaufort, then a bit of a plateau towards Côte des Gardes. On those three hills, I think you try to create a group ahead with those tier 2 riders, because then you might arrive at the next Montmartre ahead. If someone goes on that first Montmartre, then you're in the group that rider is riding towards, or those riders are getting towards. So you've made the selection by anticipating where it will happen, you know? So the danger to that is that there is 18 kilometers of flat before the first Montmartre. So you gotta have...
But Van Dijk might not be there anymore if you made it hard enough on the hills.
Yeah, but if you're in a smaller country, can you make it hard enough on the hills?
I mean, like if there's jumping,
yeah,
then the race becomes much harder than for Van Dijk.
What if Netherlands responds in SD Works fashion by putting Van Dijk in that group?
Then you're chilling. Then you're happy. That's a fuck up.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, what the Netherlands should do, Benji, is put a rider called Marianne Vos or Demi Vollering in the group. And now what? So that's the problem for Belgium. And that's where actually, maybe I'm thinking about this all the wrong way around. I'm thinking about it all the wrong way around, is that Kopecky's the favorite with a good team, but not the best team. It's not as good as Italy, in my opinion. It's not as good as the Netherlands. It's a solid, but not the best.
Is it not just the same as the men's race in terms of the setup? We've got Van der Poel with not the greatest team around him, only 3 riders.
Yep.
And then the Belgian team that has the multiple pieces trying to kill him. And then on the women's side, we've got Kopecky in Belgium with domestiques around her, but not the strongest team in the race. And then Netherlands with multiple riders to try to kill her.
I think so. So if I was the Netherlands, I would say, Lorena Wiebes, you are on Kopecky's back wheel. You're just going to sit there all race. That's where you're going to be. Because actually, these hills are not that hard, and they're not that long, and Wiebes is not a pure sprinter anymore. She's a classics rider. No. And so then, why shouldn't Netherlands, if Van Dijk controls the first hour and a half,
Yeah.
or to Saint-Remy-les-Chevreuse. Then you got to go with Voss and Vollering, right? And then
Yeah.
there's very few groups that they will not be the favorite in. Very, very few groups. Vollering will be, Voss will be the favorite to win from almost any group. Vollering from 90% of groups that, unless there's Longoborghini or Balsamo. So, because like if Vollering's in a group with Anna Henderson, you take it, right?
Yeah.
You take it if you're Netherlands, and then that means what? Kopecky has to start chasing herself. So
you take it, but you especially take it if you're Britain as well. It's like
yeah, you can medal.
We always need to keep in mind that medaling is a thing. So people are willing to ride with the favorite if they can get a silver and bronze medal.
And so if you're Kristen Faulkner and you get into a group with Marianne, if you get into a group with Marianne Vos and you're Kristen Faulkner, and there's also Ludwig there, you're gonna ride. You're gonna ride for sure. Like what? And let Wiebes and Kopecky come back and get nothing.
But if there's 7 riders in the group, then you might start to doubt yourself a little bit.
Yeah, then you attack.
So it's the dynamic of the group size versus the amount of medals possible.
I think they should make this very, very hard for Kopecky. Last year, I remind you, in World Championships, Kopecky she did survive a bit of an onslaught from the Netherlands team, but it was very short climbs. These climbs are a little bit longer, and Van Vleuten, no offense to her, but she really wasn't putting Kopecky under pressure, and there was a bigger team.
Yeah, but is this also not similar to if you're looking at Roubaix, for example, and you see that Kopecky is the strongest on the cobble sectors, then you attack her on the flat in between with numbers. If you know that Kopecky is going to be good on the climbs, on Montmartre, etc., then you attack her in between the climbs with your numbers.
Yes. It's like with Van der Poel, like you said. If you just wait to the Montmartre hill zone with Kopecky and Wiebes, as if you're any other country, you're pretty much accepting that you are not going to win the race. Like, those two are too explosive, and unless you're Marianne Vos, but you're also one of them's your teammate. So, yeah, Pfeiffer Georgie, for example, really nice rider, great classics rider. She's not going to follow them normally on those hills when they really kick it off. So you have to get ahead early. Even Ludwig, for example, and she's quite aggressive. So I think it's going to be another really, really interesting race. It is much shorter, so that does lend it towards being maybe it is a bit more closed until that Montmartre hill zone. But yeah, I think if you're America and those other countries, if you're Australia with Grace Brown, like how does Brown play at Benji? Liège-Bastogne-Liège winner, and she just put 1.5 minutes into everybody in the TT. What does she do?
Do you see the first Montmartre already being selective enough to drop riders like Grace Brown?
No.
Then don't you wait until after the first Montmartre and maybe go on some of
those misc hills, yeah.
Yeah. They're classified, but let's call them misc hills for now. The misc hills in the Paris circuit, try to anticipate the next Montmartre, because some of those, like if we take a look at those 3 climbs very specifically in the final circuit, like Montmartre, okay, the street cobbles, etc., we've spoken about it. The steepest segment is somewhere in the middle of the climb, in a wider bend. It becomes narrow towards the top. That's the climb where favorites attack, in my opinion. The Côte de Serrurier, 1.7 kilometers, 3.5%. That's a wide, straight road. That's the kind of road where Brown tries to slip away, in my opinion. Or the Côte de Belleville, where the first half is false flat before it starts climbing, but that false flat at the start is cobbly. So that's the kind of area where you could slip away again, or you'd slip away between the climbs. Brown's been pretty good at slipping away between climbs. That's how she's done it. Didn't she get away in LBL that way?
In Liège, she was already ahead and got caught. So she is going to anticipate. The question is just where. Is it on the Côte des Gardes before the circuit even starts, and then she uses the flat to get an advantage before the first Montmartre? Or does she even go on the first Montmartre knowing that probably it's too early for Kopecky or Wiebes to launch? She has to go early. Kristen Faulkner is the same, similar rider profile. Has to go early, but not too early. So where do they go exactly? I think. But
It's
I
either
don't know.
before or after
Yeah.
the first Montmartre. that's
Yeah.
that's the
Well, yeah.
the least hot take
by
ever.
definition, I think it has to be.
I mean, in the 15 kilometers before the first Montmartre or the 10 kilometers after.
All right, let's do some roughies, Benji, before we do the medals.
What does that mean? Let's do some roughies.
Dark
That sounds
horses.
like we're about to do some drugs or something.
No, dark horses. Kim Kadzau, I think she came top 5 in Liège with the crash or something. She's 250 to 1 and was good in the TT. Insane price. Kim Lacourt, also elite classics rider, 250 to 1, insane price. Alison Jackson, is it too hard for her? I'm not sure, but she can sprint. Alison Jackson, also Benji, from memory in that Vuelta Hill, she was the one attacking or following a big, strong attack from somebody in the stage she won. So Alison Jackson also has excellent punch. I was surprised to see she's rated that price. Yeah. Victoire Berthaud, 250. She's also an elite classics rider, and she's French. So, yeah, like I see Victoire Berthaud has a much bigger chance to me to win than controversial Lizzie Deignan at 50 to 1. So, or even Niewiadoma. Like, I like Niewiadoma, but
it's a sprint. Well, not a sprint, but the likelihood of Niewiadoma getting away on the climb, which she needs to win, is unlikely.
Because she's so good, Niewiadoma, that she can't anticipate like Brown. She'll get marked. And then it's not hard enough for her to drop Wiebes and Kopecky off the wheel, so I really don't see how she can win. But I hope I'm wrong. So yeah, I like those. I was surprised to see them because I think they have a better chance than someone like Norsgaard or Blanka Vash, frankly.
What are the odds on Kim Kadzau after getting 6th at LBL?
250.
That's crazy to me. She can podium for me.
Olivia Baril is also an elite Hill Classics rider, I think. So what did Olivia Baril do recently? I think Canada actually have a really good chance to medal here. Baril was seventh. Baril was 7th in Binder, 12th in Flesh.
Good at Italia. Not medal for me. Top 10 is possible. Not medal.
Not medal?
I don't see medal.
Okay. Let me just check something.
I'll let you check something, my friend. Meanwhile, I'm thinking about my bronze, silver, and gold medals already. I feel like I want to put Kim Kadzau on bronze. But I feel like the women's race is more likely to be a top 5 contender winning than the men's race because of the race being more controllable due to its length and its format. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, do I think Kopecky's going to win? I'm not sure, actually.
I think it's tough. I think I would take Wiebes over her, actually, in a head-to-head.
I think it's possible.
Where the hell is Soraya Paladin? What's she done to annoy Italy lately?
I'm going to go with Kadzau 3rd, Longo Borghini 2nd, and 1st, Marianne Vos.
Vos, yeah, we haven't really spoken about the best rider ever. So Vos also, yeah, she can win in a number of ways. I think it's the best possible circuit for Vos.
But her team is not the best possible team for Vos. Because while Van Dijk is there, Wiebes and Vollering will always prefer each other winning than Vos winning at this race.
I don't think Wiebes or Vollering would prefer if either or the other wins versus Vos. I don't think they have a strong preference. I think they want themselves to win.
Really?
Why?
What do you mean?
Why would Vollering care if it's Vos or Wiebes?
I think Wiebes wants Wiebes to win.
Yeah.
I think Vollering wants Vollering to win.
Yeah.
I think they'd rather see it with Vollering potentially leaving the team of SD Works. I don't think my argument fits anymore.
I think Wiebes being in the team is good for Vos' chances to win because it makes it very, very clear. You are not waiting for the sprint. If it comes to a sprint, it's Wiebes. She has to be aggressive. And if Vos gets into a group of 8 riders, she can win. So I'm going to go with...
smart.
And she's pretty smart as well. I'm going to go with bronze. Grace Brown. 2nd, Marianne Vos. 1st, Silvia Persico.
Is it
on
horrible that we
Italy.
didn't put Kopecky on the podium?
I think they're all gonna. I think a group is gonna go early in the middle hill zone.
Okay.
And Persico 7th in Flanders, 8th in Binder, one Grand Prix de Morbihan, which is a sort of a hill circuit. She's got a sprint on her. Yeah, I think her, Berthaud, all those sort of Olivia Baril, all the second tier riders, they need to get in a group. And I don't know how then Vos doesn't win from that group because Netherlands will be in there. But I just wanted to pick Persico. So there we go.
Yeah,
Grace Brown also
for
can
Vos.
just ride away and win. Like,
yeah,
if she's solo with 45 seconds and Kopecky and Wiebes no longer have teammates, what's going to happen, Benji?
Yeah, I agree with you. Is that not just the same scenario as the likelihood of Remco going solo in the men's race?
Pretty much. But that's worse because Wout will be like, I'm not helping Van. This is like, it'll just be, they'll chasse patat attack each other.
Yeah.
It'll be, yeah. So I think it's going to be really, really interesting. I don't think it should be a sprint. That's why I picked Persico. But I also think of the favourites, actually, I got a feeling about Longa Borghini. I got a feeling about her.
One final thing. I want to talk about the men's Swiss team. So Bissiker and Kung rode the time trial. And after the time trial, Bissiger gets replaced by
You said my back hurty.
For the road race. That should only happen in case of medical stuff, etc. Whether that was the case or not, I don't know. Which makes it very conspiracy theory and makes it sound like they just replaced Bissiker for Hirschi because he fits better for the parkour.
Yeah. I mean, injuries do happen. Like Kwiatkowski pulled out, and he's obviously a better chance to win than Anielkowski, or do well. But yeah, that does look like pretty strategic. But you know, it is what it is. Maybe he does have a sore back. Anyway, that's all from us, Benji. You did your women's podium.
Yes, I did, my friend.
I got people ringing the doorbell. It's all
Lamborghini, and I forgot who's gonna win. Vos.
You picked Vos as boss. All right. Can't wait to watch this weekend. I'll be back home to watch it. I'll be watching all the races in full. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for joining Cycling, as always, for supporting the show. And we'll see you with our recaps on the weekend. Until then, ciao.